everybody, and welcome to another Teacher Talks session. And tonight we have a very special teacher and from Spain, and she's Lucchesi, and she's a certified TEFL teacher, an ESL teacher, Cambrd and IELTS exam certification trainer, and speaking coach. And now when she comes, we are going to start, and somehow we have kind of don't know why it is happening. I'm really sorry about it, and I hope we're not going to have the problem one more time. Hello, Andy.
Hi.
Hi.
Let's see.
I'm really sorry about it. I really don't know what's happening. The connection is going, and Instagram's freeze. I don't know.
Yeah,
By
I
my
know.
side,
I know
or
I know that is happening. I just come off another live, so I think that maybe it's on your side, but it doesn't matter. Let's flow with
let's
this
do
one
it
and let's
again.
see.
Okay, so and you were talking about yourself, but I'm really sorry. Is it possible to uh, tell us about yourself again, shortly?
Yes,
So
sure, of
sorry.
course, no problem. I think that I was talking about my professional experience. Do you want me to start there?
Maybe, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. You can just start from your teaching experiences. It's fine. Yeah, we can continue
Okay.
from there.
All right. Well, very briefly, I think that you were asking about the previous question that comes from that one. Yes, now I get it. Well, I am an ESL certified teacher. I also have a major in journalism. For example, also train Cambridge and IELTS. I am
Mm-hmm.
speaking coach. I also am a content creator. And for those who are watching and joining and want to follow my page, I'm from Andy's Everyday's English. Okay. All right. So let's see the train of thought. Sorry, it's because yeah, it's been so many times that we go on and off.
Yeah, I
Um,
see. Mm-hmm.
then your other question was about my teaching experience, right?
Yeah, teaching experiences.
I
Yes.
was I was saying that actually it all started very early,
Mm-hmm.
early meaning like 17, because they were looking for a teaching for an assistant at my
Mm-hmm.
auntie's Dilda school, the place where she was working back then, and she asked me if I was available. And since I was starting college, because I started college quite early, I was like, okay, sure, I'll fit the bill, I'll do it. Especially because I've always liked the concept of helping
Mm-hmm.
people and teaching. So I was like, okay, let's do it. But ironically, I wasn't studying education. I actually majored I was majoring in journalism,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I actually, by being a teacher assistant and then formally a teacher, I paid for journalism school. So
Oh.
yeah, it all of this, it was kind of like discovering that I wanted to be a teacher. It was a process that was in the making,
Mm-hmm.
because of course, so a part of my character is that I'm kind of like a stubborn person,
Uh-huh.
and if I have a fixed idea, I'm kind of like, I'm go there, I'm gonna do it, right?
I see.
Of course, we evolve in personality. So for me back then, I was like, I'm determined to be this journalist, and I wanted to work in corporative journalism back then.
Yeah,
And actually, I made it. I was working for the UN, UN Panama, and I was working for FAO and all those things. But
I
then,
see.
those things that you're like, I am here, I kind of like, I'm in, and then you don't feel happy. So that actually happened to me. But the thing is that life has this beautiful timing.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like this moment in my life that I had to stop and think about what is it that I wanted. So
I
I
see.
remember my years of teacher, previous teaching,
Mm-hmm.
because it was like all this 5 years previous experience. So I was like, why I not, like, why not going back to those years?
I see.
And it was the biggest joy. So that's, the rest of history.
Yeah. The history is a great, great history, and thank you very much for sharing your experiences with us. And my next question is about your own education. Like, what was your favorite moment or experience in your own education, and something that you can't forget?
Well, for those who don't know me out there, my life it's has been different because my dad's a Marine and my mom is a diplomat. They're currently both retired,
No.
right now, recently retired. But thanks to them, I really had a very interesting life, at least childhood and when it comes about my younger years. So
Mm-hmm.
the thing is that my learning experience, I have to say that it has been kind of like a hybrid because I have always lived in many different cultures
Mm-hmm.
and different languages.
I see.
So that's why I feel so connected to so many different countries. And for me, adapting to other cultures and people, it's so easy in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, early teaching experiences that I have loved, I remember when we were living in Jakarta in Indonesia because my mom was transferred there.
I see.
And because I was born in Denmark, but then we like very briefly after I was born, when I was 2.5, my mom, she was transferred to Jakarta. And well, they were looking, for nannies and all
Uh-huh.
this whole experience came. So I was already ready for preschool, but I, of course, my language, everything was in English, right?
I
There
see.
back then, we're talking about, like 32 years ago, okay? Because I'm 36. So we're talking, yeah. So it was really interesting that back then, very few people, only those that were working for the embassy, they were, of course, speaking in English, and they had this staff of people that would back people up, right? So
Yeah.
my first encounter with my nanny slash teacher, it was very interesting because when I grew up, when we moved, I was already 7 years and a half.
Ooh.
When my
Mm-hmm.
mom, she was transferred again, we lived several years there. Actually, my sister, she was born in Jakarta. Yeah, I was
Very
born in Denmark, and
international life.
she was born in Indonesia. Well, that's the life of,
It's like a very multicultural,
but you know what? I think, but let me finish my story and then I'll tell you
Okay.
something about that. And the thing is that um, when I moved, this teacher, she was also helping me at school once that I, finished my preschool
Yeah.
and started the first grade and all. Um, she was, of course, my support teacher, right? Like helping me with homework
Uh-huh.
and all that. I remember that she gave me this diary, this little diary. It had Hello Kitty. I remember it clearly because she said, "Open it when you feel sad. Okay, open it every time that you feel sad." And I was like, my 7-year-old me, I was like, "Okay, sure." And it was like this beautiful message that back then I didn't remember that it was there. I think that it was like 7 years ago, I found that same diary.
Wow.
And yeah, and between all the boxes and movings and stuff that life, bring you, because then I have moved several times again. There was like this Hello Kitty diary that it was like this size with a message from her that basically it said that I could do anything that I wanted in life. So I think that she has been like this figure, for
Uh-huh.
me as a teacher, because for me, she is one of my very important role models. I think that
I see.
everything goes from her. As when I think as myself as the teacher that I want to be, she
Mm-hmm.
is one of those teachers. Because I mean, she was not thinking in the girl
Wonderful.
back then. She was thinking in the woman that I might have become. So for me, that was really interesting. And those things that you find that you're like, okay, that it was just mere coincidence. I could have lost that so many times that I've moved in life, and I could have lost that. And actually, it appeared like magic in a moment that I really needed it, and it was like,
Yeah,
wow. For me, it
I
was amazing. Yeah.
it's a wonderful story. It's a
Yeah.
great story about it and a very nice experience. And I was saying that it's about you're very multicultural, the faith, and you were saying that I'm gonna tell something about it.
Yes. The thing is that sometimes when a lot of people, one of the questions that I dread a lot is kind of like, what are you from and stuff like that. I'm kind of like, I'm from planet Earth, man. I mean, I I know that there is a lot of interest and there is no harm in that question and all, but the thing is that I think that sometimes it's a little bit unfair because we should be multicultural. I mean, where else are we gonna go? There is no other place that we're
Yeah,
gonna go.
yeah,
So
you're
for
right.
me, it makes no difference. People that are from the other part of the planet or
Uh-huh.
in the side of the world that I'm right now. By the way, I'm based right now in Spain,
Yeah,
and but who knows what's gonna happen, next year or in a couple of
next
years.
year.
Yeah,
I see. I see. Great.
yeah.
Thank you, Andy. So, uh, can you tell us about your current job and what kind of things you are doing?
Well, okay, let's say that I'm a freelancer in many ways, but it's kind of like interesting because as I am a content creator, the thing is that I started creating content for me,
Mm-hmm.
particularly this year. Well, actually in 2020, when I created my Instagram page, right?
I
Because in the
see.
past, it has always been working or as a teacher for academies or for
Uh-huh.
schools, collaborating here and there, again, creating content and teaching experiences. My morning job, because
Yeah.
I work on several projects. My morning job is one of the most interesting so far that I've done because it's as an international consultant, an international educator consultant. That's the title.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
basically, yes, it's really interesting because basically I recommend parents and
Mm-hmm.
young students which country is best for them to learn English and have a full immersion experience. It's just
Oh,
great, especially because I work a lot on the psychological and educational part about where the child should go. So for me, it's that side is really important because a lot of people has an idea about where they should
mm-hmm.
go, but then based on their personality, I am like, hey, probably this country is not total fit for you because in the end you're going to learn English anyways. That's the least that I'm worried about. I want
I
you to
see.
have like a full experience. So for me, I kind of like take them in a way that the country matches their personality. So the learning experience,
Yeah,
it goes hand by hand, and it's really
I
interesting.
see.
That's one of the things that I do. Then I teach several hours during the day. Yeah, I normally work around 12 hours per day.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's not like a slaving thing. For me, it's really more like because I love so much what I do.
I
I put myself so much into it, that it's a thing that when people ask me, I am kind of like, yes, let's do that, and then like, oh no, I don't have time for this, and like, what have I done? That and like apart from my teaching hours, I am also
mm-hmm.
right now I've started another project
Yeah.
for this
It's
company.
yeah, you were mentioning about a very interesting project before the session, and if you
Yes,
remember that, maybe if you want, you can
yeah,
tell
it
about
is
that
like so
project.
many things. Yes, it's kind of like related to my morning job. So the thing is that I'm so versed into it right now because it's like a newborn baby right now. This is like
Mm-hmm.
the first time that we're launching it, and it's a boot camp, an English boot camp, based just for the kids that are going to do the full immersion thing, and basically it's to help them kind of like change the chip
Mm-hmm.
about the place that they're going to go. Apart from practicing English, they meet kids in the same group. So basically it's kind of like a warm up to the
I
situation
see.
that they're going to have in the full immersion. So it's a really cool experience linguistically, culturally.
Uh-huh.
And that's just the beginning. April is almost done. May, we're going to have some guests.
Mm-hmm.
And in June, it's going to be kind of like high time because everybody is going to be about to leave because they're going to start in September. So
Mm, I
more or
see.
less, that's basically what I'm working on right now.
I
Yeah.
see. Great. Thank you, Andy. And there is someone is asking, like, I saw your writings, Bonu Hakimova. Don't worry about it because we are just, she's talking about something and that's why I can't ask. And she says that she's asking that, where are you from? But she mentioned where are you from. She's from, maybe
Yeah, I
it's
was born
better.
in Denmark.
Yeah, Denmark. And she's wondering, sorry, I said she, I don't know, maybe or he, Bono Hakimova asking her what's an Instagram page. Like, is it possible to remind it?
Oh, yes. Thank you for asking. My page is Andy's Everyday's English. Yes, Andy's.everydays.english. That's my page. Thank you
Okay,
for asking.
thank you. And you can also find her Instagram page on the poster that I shared with you on the Creative English 18. You can reach her whenever you want from that Instagram page. Okay, so as we all know that, and you have been in different countries, and right
Yes.
now you are living in Spain as a teacher, as an English teacher. So
Yes.
what are the advantages and disadvantages of working in Spain as an English teacher, Andy?
Well, actually, I think that working in Spain as an English teacher is quite fulfilling, especially because Spain is still one of those European countries that they're transitioning into um, working with English, not as as it was in the past, as just a subject, another subject at school, but as um, like for the Netherlands or for
Mm-hmm.
Northern European countries, the transition has already like happened
Mm-hmm.
because they actually work at schools like they're bilingual already, right? Here actually that is happening right now, and I think that is good times for an English teacher to be in Spain. But of course, when I say an English teacher, I'm with all respect, I am not talking about those teachers that they're like, oh, I'm gonna just spend a year or like a few months in Spain and see like what happens. Teachers, like they're not certified, and you know what I mean. And
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
because and this is I hope that a good message for people out there, because people speak the language, it doesn't mean that you are an educator. So it is important that if you guys want to have a speaking coach, or if you guys are looking for somebody that help you grow in your process, please find somebody that actually got the certification. Of course, it doesn't mean that they are going to be better teachers because they've got it. It's just that
Mm-hmm.
you know that this person is trained for it. Okay.
I see.
Now, qualities and having a person that is like all spirited and all, it doesn't have to do with that. But, if you
Exactly.
just want to join, a multicultural group to practice your English in a free way, we've got lots of those pages around. But in this case, if you think about it, just having a certified teacher, it will do so much for you. So
Yeah.
let's always be careful in that. So yeah, basically to answer your question, here in Spain, I think that are good times for being an ESL teacher,
I see.
whatever you're from.
I see. So maybe if we have a chance to come in Spain and we can work there
Let
to
me tell you, I
love.
mean, it would be lovely, especially because we need quality teachers. Any, like everywhere, we need them. But language trainers are always desired. And again, when I say that they speak the language, I am not talking about native, non-native. I am totally against that myth,
Uh-huh.
because that also doesn't make you a better teacher. Just by learning the if you are a teacher, an ESL teacher, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe English is not your first language, but you are an educator and you have studied the language in
Exactly.
depth, that's totally perfect. Because there
Nice.
has been a myth. When I got here in 2015,
Mm-hmm.
there was like this thing going around, and I kind of like take a deep breath, because it's kind of like, yes, it's kind of like the story that never ends, right? There were like, oh, are you native? Are you not native? So even native teachers, they were better paid than the ones that were not. So for me, that was incredibly unfair. Teachers that they were probably not native, but I don't know, maybe they had like twice time experience that I had, and I was like, it's so unfair that
I
just
see.
because a person is native or not, they got better paid. So let's just stop the madness. A teacher
Right.
is a good teacher because it's a good coach, it's a good educator, and that's the thing that we have to focus on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank
Mm.
you, Andy. Thank you very much. And my next question is
Yeah.
about the change of your educator side. Like, how have you changed as an educator since you first started?
Well, a lot, tremendously. I mean, it's been like a 360 degrees change, because when I started, as I said, I started really young. I started when I was 17 with no clue that I was actually going to do this for a living. I had a total different plan in life. And back then, of course, I never even thought about even working online, even though I have always been pro online or hybrid
Mm-hmm.
methods.
I see.
Probably because I am, I grew in the 90s. So for me, I am like a child from the transition years when
Mm-hmm.
everything became more online. So for me, it was kind of natural, and it's where everything's going, right?
I see.
So basically, for me, how it has changed, it's because I think I have become more aware of the
Mm-hmm.
needs of my students right now. And in the past, I was very traditional in many ways. But I have discovered, the more I have traveled and worked in different countries,
I see.
I have also learned from the students and adapted. Not because I have been in schools that they had like they didn't even have a board. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Where we had schools that everything was absolutely, like 21st century and beyond.
I
So
see.
the idea here is adaptability. So I have become more aware of working with that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, um, the more certifications or studying that I can do for my students, the better.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, I have never stopped doing that.
I
So I
see.
think that in many ways, I think that that has made me a better teacher. And lately, because I fully transitioned in like 2019, I transitioned to being an online teacher. I fully transitioned,
Mm-hmm.
even though that sometimes collaborate with certain academies or
Yeah.
schools that actually ask me, especially for exam certifications, which is kind of like one of my
Mm-hmm.
fortes. I really do enjoy it. So working on that, sometimes I collaborate. So yeah, I mean, I still don't want to leave the physical classroom. I kind of like love it, having this
Yeah.
contact with
Of
people.
course.
So it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
hard sometimes. But yeah, I fully almost transitioned to online.
I see. I
Yeah.
see. Thank you very much, Andy. And my next question is about feedback,
Yeah.
Andy. Like, what is feedback for learning, and how well do you give it to students, to your students?
I see. Well, you you already have seen my page, and for
Yeah.
those that haven't seen it, I actually invite you guys to do so. I work a lot on motivation. What does it
Mm-hmm.
mean? For me, whatever learning process that you're going through, especially when it comes about a language, I always remind them that learning a language is an organic process. An
Yeah.
organic process means that you're a unique individual, and it means that you're going to learn
Mm-hmm.
that language, English, Spanish, German. I
Yeah.
mean, like whatever it is that you are that you're aiming, it has
Yes,
to be on your own path and rhythm. We're all
I
different.
see. Mm-hmm.
So in my case, the way that I give feedback, it is depending on how many students I've got in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I adapt that feedback to them, which means that, for example, if I have students that are more visual, I will send them, for example, for instance, I have always worked with WhatsApp since it has existed, and I always send them like morning messages to my students, the ones that I know that are into those things. And it's kind of like, you can do this, and the stuff that I know that individually they wanted or needed.
Mm-hmm.
Students that are more auditive, I have shared, like a Spotify list that we can all listen together. Again, working on motivation.
I see.
Those who just are into a talk, or I just send them a message. When it comes about mistakes, I
Mm-hmm.
encourage them. I'm always like, please, let's make mistakes, let's learn through mistakes. And they laugh, because for me it's kind of like, if you don't make the mistakes, if you stop in the moment that you're going to make that mistake, how
Yeah,
your brain is going to learn, like, okay, this is the way that I'm not supposed to do it. Now please correct me so I don't do it again, or if I do it again. I love it when students realize that they have made that mistake, and this kind of like, just give me a second, and like, yes, brilliant, that's the way.
I
So for
see.
me, feedback, it is very personal. And I always ask them permission. I always say, may I correct you? I
I
never
see.
interrupt abruptly,
Mm-hmm.
because there is like a thing between being, like, what is it that you're pursuing as a teacher? Are you
I
pursuing
see.
fluency? Are you pursuing accuracy? Are you pursuing both in that classroom? So the thing is that for me, I try to be as respectful as I can as a teacher. And I also try to be as, funny. If my students consider me funny, I don't know. I try to be funny in the way that sometimes I make the mistakes, and they're like, teacher, that's not the way that you say it, especially with my elementary kids. And I was like, oh yes, that was not the way. How do I say it? And they're like, you say it this way. So you're like, okay, they're paying attention. So it really depends. I work with kids, I
I
work with
see.
teenagers, with
Mm-hmm.
adults, different ages. I
Different
mean,
ages.
so
Uh-huh.
many. And for me, in a day, in a working load day, I work with so many different ages
I
that for me,
see.
it's kind of like I change the chip all the time. So it really depends on the student that I having. Yeah.
I see. Great, great. Thank
Yeah.
you, Andy.
No,
Andy, there's
thank
a
you.
question here. There's a question here. Someone asked you about it, and Azra asks you, do you
Yeah.
see feedback as a result or a process in online classes?
Um, in online classes, for example, if it's in a group, okay, because we have to differentiate it. If it's a one-on-one class,
Mm-hmm.
there are more chances for me as a coach to, like, be more specific, more precise.
Mm-hmm.
If I
Yes.
see in a group, then, once that this is clear, that in an individual class, there is more chance, and it's like very personal. You're really just having this conversation, and it's a back and forth thing that goes and flows, right?
Yeah.
But when I am in a group, and if I see that it is a mistake that most of the students are making, I'm like, hey guys, do you remember this class? Or do you remember that we said that it was mentioned this way? Like, for example, again, I'm talking about my students here in Spain,
Yeah.
so they speak Spanish, and they're like, it's not honor, it's honor. Yes, it's like, what an it is, and they're like, what an honor. And they're like, oh, it's not honor or honor. Yes, it's an honor to meet you. And they're like, oh, with no sound. Yes. And
Great.
we're laugh about it, so it's not like pinpointing on one of the students. So in this case, I always try to make it a group learning thing. Again, if after that, I normally write everything when they're in the group. If it's
Mm-hmm.
online, I try to do it in the chat. directly to the student to do it on the spot. Okay,
I see.
so they know, and it's kind of like, I'm gonna show up right now, and they're like, let's do it this way, and I am like, haha, with no help, huh? And so it goes, you know, to be an online teacher, you've gotta learn how to, I don't like to use the word multitask, but to have very clear the processes that you have to do in the classroom.
Yes.
Because you have to pay attention to the rest of the kids or the guys, you know, depending on the age, and to be capable to, you know, focus individually in the student in case that they actually need it. Otherwise, you have to
I
do it
see.
all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this nice answer, Randy.
Yeah. Oh no, we have all
Okay.
the time. I mean, my student, you know, the one that I have afterward, the class, we already canceled, so you can ask me everything that you want.
Okay, great. So, Andy, next question is about the assess the students' needs. Like, what are some criteria you use to assess students' needs?
It really depends on what the student is looking for. Because it's not the same to have a speaking class and just work on your fluency and accuracy just because you want to practice your skill. But for example, if you are working on a business class, yes, because sometimes, well, sometimes a lot of the, you know, times in the week I've got business classes, and
Yes.
in company classes I normally try to do it with very reduced groups and kind of like 6 people tops, right? So the thing is that and always remember that normally in business classes, depending on the group that I've got, age matters, the topic that we're working matters, the personality is the most important thing matters.
I see.
So what is it that I do to assess them? Normally at the very beginning of the class or the year, because normally they work in trimesters with me. This thing that learn English in a week or in 3, for me, that it's totally crazy. Unless that you want to do like a practice, like, okay, I want to practice for an interview, which I have prepared people for interviews as well. That is a total different aim. But normally my students, they come in trimesters, you know. It doesn't really matter if they are from elementary or, you know, high school, business class. I work in trimesters because it's when you actually can see an evolution. So the thing is that, what is my criteria? I try to tell them, base your learning in your personality. What does it mean? You are the only person who knows who really is inside. So
yeah, exactly.
My criteria is always accuracy, fluency, and those 2 things based on our 4 skills, right?
I see.
Reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Yes. So
yeah.
I want to tell, I always ask them, grade yourself. I will tell you in the way, how do I see you? But I normally give them kind of like an online card where they can actually see their evolution. And I try to tell them to be as honest as they can with themselves so they can see the real progress, you know. Sometimes they're kind of like, here the grade is from 0 to 10, and they're like, I am a 9, I am a 10, and I'm kind of like, really, are you? And they're like, okay, and they move to 8, and I'm kind of like, that's more realistic. So it's something
it's a nice one.
So it's something that it's not like the teacher is always there grading you. You have your own opinion about how you're evolving. Of course, sometimes this can backfire a little bit because it is true that there are people that sometimes, again, that's why I'm telling you that this works a lot with your self-esteem. And motivation has to be, for me, motivation is priority, because grammar, vocabulary, all those things are going to be, you know, versed and poured into your beautiful minds only if you're open to it. So for me, motivation always comes first, and then the rest comes by itself, you know.
I see.
So that's the way I do it.
I see. Thank you very much, Andy. It's really
no, thank you for the questions. I'm
useful
loving your questions.
Thank you. And I'm sure that this you will love these questions a lot. And also because I'm gonna ask these questions to all our followers
Oh,
later
yes.
after the sessions, and I really wonder that what are they going to say about these questions. But first, we are going to listen to you. If you could have a one superpower to use in the classroom, what
Okay.
would it be, and how would it help?
Oh gosh, this is kind of like the 1 million question. But can I tell you something?
Of course.
If I could have a superpower, I would love, to kind of like snap my fingers so my students have like super focus, you know, like super focus power, at least for a short period of time. And that one thing that you want them to learn, they would learn it. It would get into their head, and it's kind of like, okay, done.
That done.
So
It's
they
really
already
nice
have
one.
it there in their it's all set in their files. It's kind of like, cool, now we can move on. I would love to have that superpower.
I
But
agree.
can I tell
Wonderful one.
you, yeah, but can I tell you why? Because for me, it's not something that I would love for myself. It's something I would love for them. So, because I know that we're
Yeah,
right now living
wonderful
in
point.
because we're living now in a time that I want everything and I want it now. And I was kind of like, oh my gosh, if I can, have that superpower, I would give them like super focus.
A
Like, just
wonderful
want you
one.
to focus so you can open that mind because you can actually do it. Yes, you just have to focus. So I would give
Yeah,
them that. I will have
definitely.
that.
A great one. Really great superpower. Thank you, Andy. And my other question is, what do you love the most about teaching?
Oh gosh, can I tell you? I know that it sounds a little bit of a cliche, but in my case, it's really everything. Specifically, the creative process. For
Wonderful.
me,
Uh-huh.
the creative process, it's so great and it's so
Mm-hmm.
different. When you're little, you actually don't know what you're going to be, but you know what you don't want to be.
Yeah,
So the thing is that, that's why it's so wide open. In my case, I always knew that I never wanted a desk job. Those work that those jobs that you can, like, chained to the desk. I didn't want that. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I never wanted a mechanic work, like this mechanical work that you just go ahead and do the same thing over and over and over. So for me, being a teacher is like doing something new every day,
I see.
not just because of the classes, but because of the
Mm-hmm.
people. And for me, discovering that I can do so many different ways for my students,
Mm-hmm.
that is the best thing for, like, ever for me. So for me, that's basically what I believe it's the best thing about teaching. Mhm.
I
The
see.
creative
Mm-hmm.
part.
Thank you, Andy, for
Mhm.
this nice answer.
Oh,
And
they're having like a beautiful comment here. There are people that are
I missed
commenting a
it.
lot.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Oh, I saw it now. Yeah, she
yeah.
says like Azra says, if I had superpower in my let me read. If I had superpower in my classes, I try to provide all facilities in my classes to make my students achieve best results. Oh, nice.
Yeah, well, I know that sometimes we teachers, we would love to have. I am the type of. I was laughing the other day because another fellow teacher on Instagram, which I love tremendously, she was like, "Are you the kind of teacher who never throws something away just in case you might need it?" I was like, "That's me. That's me all the way."
Keep, yeah,
So I don't know, facilities. Yeah, I think that sometimes having facilities, you know, they make things so much. They make it just different, but
mm-hmm.
it might not make it better.
I
The
see.
best facility, that the student should have is their teacher. So it's the teacher that has to be resourceful, and
Yes.
not the things that we might use. But yeah, I mean, having, like, digital blackboards and stuff like that is so cool, especially if you're an online teacher and you have like the last gadgets. Of course, that is the best thing. But yeah, I think that as long as the teacher is good, your students are good.
Yeah, I agree with you that point. Thank you,
Mm,
Andy. And Andy,
yeah.
who was or is your most inspirational colleague and why?
If I have to talk about the first one, I have to say that it has been my Auntie Gilda when it talking educational wise, because again, with my other career, I also have major, role models. But I have to say that it's my Auntie Gilda because she is such, now that we're talking about being resourceful,
Mm-hmm.
she is such a creative being. So for me, she has to be the one. But then again, I know that it might sound cliche. So far, I've been so lucky, and I'm gonna knock on wood.
Do it.
Uh, yeah, uh, most of my colleagues have been an infinite source of inspiration because they have been so different, and I have learned so much from them that it would be so unfair to say that there have been one more than another that I have learned or
Mm-hmm.
like best. So I guess that everything that I have worked with, I have learned something from this person that I actually take with me and verse it into the classroom. I actually have changed many things in the way that I do stuff after meeting people.
I
I'm kind of
see.
like, oh my God, I'm going to try this. This is going to be better because it should never be about you. It should always be about the students.
Yeah, you're right about that point. Yeah, not about us,
Thanks.
about the students. Thank you, Andy. And Andy,
Yeah.
the next question is about school. So, what
Yeah.
is your favorite part of the school day and why?
Well, right now I'm not working in schools. As you know, I work for
Yeah.
some schools and I work in different projects and all that, and
Mm-hmm.
everything. My school is online. But when I was working in schools, my favorite day it was in the mornings when I was in the teachers' lounge, and especially with the little ones, they were always kind of like peekaboo their heads, and they were kind of like so for me, that was kind of like better than coffee, better than coffee. So
Great.
that was one of my favorite parts. Right now, even if I don't have physically my students, peekabooing through the door, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, yes, that's teacher Andy, and trying to look through the door. I'm talking about the little ones, especially. Um, it was they send me messages or they send me emojis for the day, so we are in constant
Mm-hmm.
contact.
I see.
So basically for me that's kind of like the best things. And what I do with my teenagers, for example, for me, I really don't I treat them like adults in a way,
Uh-huh.
but not because like, oh, the cool teacher. No, I don't really do it because of that. It's because it's a way that I want them to take responsibility of their actions and their learning
Mm-hmm.
and their learning process. So for me, it's actually important to treat them as such. If you treat a
I
person
see.
and you treat them as a child, they might behave as one. So even my little kids, I'm kind of like, hey. You've got responsibilities within your age, so you have to do
I
this, you have
see.
to do that. What are you telling me? So it's
Mm-hmm.
all a little bit about that.
I see. Thank you. Thank you, Andy. And Andy, next
Yeah.
question is about in education. So, what do you think is the most challenging issue in education today?
Hmm.
Distance
Well,
education, maybe.
uh, you know what? The thing is that it comes two ways because the most challenging thing for me, for the student, is to fight against their own laziness sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And because sometimes they are their worst enemy when it comes about learning something seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want, a lot of people are like, okay, I want to learn English or I want to learn whatever, right?
I
You can
see.
even be in flying school, and it doesn't really matter. You're in a
Mm-hmm.
learning process.
I see.
But sometimes the biggest challenge for the student is fighting against that laziness, this internal procrastination that we have in order to achieve our goals. And when
Mm-hmm.
it comes about the teacher, the other side, because it's something
Mm-hmm.
that goes both ways. So we feed from energy. I feed from my students' energy. If they're low, I have to kind of like, okay, let's see, but that comes with experience, of course. How can I turn this over? How can I work with it? But if you are the person who is feeling low, it's going to be a little bit hard because students, again, they feed with your energy. It's a thing that flows in the classroom, even if you're online.
Definitely.
So for us, I guess that the biggest challenge is always to reload, kind of like, okay, let's see how can I make this better, because in the end, you know, when you turn off your computer or when you go home, it is just another job. It's another profession that you do, like a doctor or astronaut or whatever it is that you do. So the thing is that try always to, as a teacher, and again, I'm always talking about mental health for us teachers, and to keep it simple, to keep it true, and to separate things. Don't make it personal, but not in a way that's personal that it might harm you. Okay, so if it's going to break your spirit, just leave it for a while. That's what because then in the end you cannot burn the candle both ends. So that's a little bit where I go. For me, that's a challenge, you know, because again, resources or other stuff, that depends on the country, the economical background, and that's a total different story. For me, it always goes what is come within.
I see. Thank you, Andy. Thank you very much for this answer. Okay, my next question is about learning trends, Andy. So which learning trend captures your attention the most, and why? For example, mobile learning and project-based learning, content-based learning, or game-based learning, or etc.
Well, actually, I'm really into gamification lately, especially because and this for me, it goes all ages. Okay,
I see.
actually, I had a live like 3 weeks ago that I lost. Thank you, Instagram. Yes, when I was about to post it, you know, it got lost in translation. But I'm gonna do it again. Actually, it's gonna happen in May.
I see.
But it's good, you know, about the gamification thing. So going back to your question, sorry, I was rambling. I like gamification because it has a purpose. When you start a game, imagine that you're playing Monopoly. The rules are clear. People are kind of like expecting what is going to happen. You know how the game flows, and you know what's the aim. A lot of times when we go to the classroom, doesn't matter the age, you are like, okay, I'm just here, you know, English. But what does it say for you? If you, from the very beginning, tell the student what is it that they're going to do, what is it that they're going to gain after the class, what is it that we're looking at, that we are working on, students are going to be more motivated to work. So for me, again, it goes all or works around motivation, because in the end, what is it that they're going to learn? The verb to be? Sure, let's make a game out of it. Let's create something. Now, I sometimes try to combine traditional teaching, mix a little bit with a few games here and there, but then most of my classes, they are based on games and results based on those games. But again, not everybody likes to play. So I fit it. I make it custom made for the student or the group of students. For instance, the last example that I've got is from the same project that I have created. I didn't know these kids before I created, you know, the concept and all. But once, and it was kind of like I was maybe asking too much, you know, in my head. But I was like, okay, I can always lower it down, you know, like make it easier for them, and that's what happened. They are 14, 15, 16-year-olds, and perhaps it was too technical what I was trying to explain to them, so I just simply changed it like that. And you teachers and you know, and you students, you have to learn the ability to change and to adapt, you know, as teachers, to if something is not working, change it immediately. Don't
Mm-hmm.
get to the point where the students are yawning or are kind of like, oh my God, when is this going to end? You know, because then it will, bad teachers are not considered bad because they're bad people. It's because they're considered boring mainly. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like, I don't like Mr. or Mrs. whatever because she is so, yeah. So that's, you know, let's not build that reputation.
No, no, I totally agree with you, Andy. Thank you, Andy. And all Andy, it's only
Yeah,
couple questions left, by the way. Yeah, the
sure.
time flies, and I try to do it as quick as possible because
I
I know that
understand.
you're very busy. So that's why. And what are your, and my next question is about the websites. I mean, what are your favorite three websites to visit for your teaching?
Well, I love, for example, when it comes about grammar, I actually, typical teachers, I have my notes with me, so I didn't forget in case that you guys wanna check it out. English Grammar Online. I normally work with that when I want to work with something a little bit more traditional, and when I, you know, like when I want to give my students a link or something about grammar, I like that one. When it comes about reading, I recommend them to go to Goodreads. Yeah. Uh,
Goodreads. Uh-huh.
yeah, Goodreads, which is really interesting. And I found it like not long ago. So for me, I'm still working on that, but I really love it because a lot of people or a lot of teachers are like, all right, go ahead and read. And students are like, okay, but what should I read? And then they, I don't know, a low intermediate, they're like, oh, I'm gonna read Moby Dick. I mean, that is a lot for that level. So let's keep it real. I always am. I'm the kind of person like keep things real. You're gonna get there.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna read the Moby Dick, but try a few books. You know, like previous than that, there are like more,
Yes.
you know, relatable to the to the
Mm-hmm.
level. So I think that Goodreads keeps good track. And finally, Kahoot. I'm working a lot with Kahoots, but again, because I'm kind
Wonderful.
of like so into gaming and I love doing things custom made for my kids. For
Mm-hmm.
example, today's class, we were working on geography and my students, they had, yeah, they're sixth graders and we were
Wonderful.
working on a geography class and they had to come up with a mini research about a country that they wish to, you know, to visit. Since I know them, I knew more or less where what is it that they were going to come up with. So we did this Kahoot, we finished, and then I, since it's on an online class, I divide them in individual online classes,
Uh-huh.
which by the way, I learned how to do that because another online teacher friend that it was in this live lately, sorry, like a few minutes ago, and the thing is that they had to talk about what the other group said. So they
Uh-huh.
have to pay attention. It's not a monologue thing. They have to pay attention to what the others are saying. So it's a matter not just about teaching English, it's about teaching values and respect,
Mm-hmm.
about like what is it that the other is saying. So you kind of like give feedback and answer appropriately. If you don't listen, how are you going to give a correct answer, right?
Definitely.
All right.
I
So those are
see.
my three
Okay,
pages.
great. They're wonderful pages. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope that they will use them pages because I really like the page with the good reads. I'll check it.
Mm.
And I've been using Code for a long time. It's a really
Hmm.
wonderful web page that you mentioned. And so
Yeah.
my kids love it. If I let them, they want to play all lesson time. They want to just play Kahoot. And I said, no, no, we don't have time to play Kahoot every day. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
exactly. And for us, it's kind of like, guys, you think that is simple, but it's not. It's kind of like hard. We
yeah,
have a wonderful question here. How about
yeah,
creative writing? Can you read that for me?
yeah, sure, of course.
Thank you.
How about creative writing? Just how about creative writing tasks in adults online classes? May explain some writing tasks in adult classes?
Well, um, there are no mistakes in life, for example, career base, I'm talking. I think that I knew that I had to become a journalist for a reason, but it was because it helped me to be a better teacher. So in this case, for example, when I teach my students writing, it's because I base it on my journalism, background. So in this case, about creative writing, it's very specific, and you can do creative writing, doesn't matter really the level. Of course, let's keep it real, but the teacher have to be very specific about what is it that you want to get out of it, not just like write about your day. No, that's not, a class. That is not an activity that you're just leaving the students there and they're going to come up with whatever. You have to give them a very specific guideline. So if you're going to work on creative writing, you have to explain the task very clearly at the very beginning on what is it that you guys are going to focus on. Maybe a topic, a story, start with a line, make it collaborative. I love to work collaborative in the class, do collaborative activities in the classroom, because, for example, maybe one group writes a paragraph, another one writes another paragraph, and let's see what comes out of that. Maybe then we correct it together. Those are the real things that we do it in the classroom. I like teaching like that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andy, for these creative ideas about creative writing. Thank you very much. And last two questions, Andy. Last two questions. Yeah. And here it comes. What advice would you give to a new teacher who asks you, what is the best way for me to keep growing as a teacher?
Okay. I really like this one because I actually wanted somebody to tell me this when I was evolving as a teacher, but just be prepared. Be prepared, because experience helps you to like react quickly in case that you need a change. It helps you to kind of like get people back in case that they were disconnected for a moment, amongst other things. But if you're not prepared, if you don't have your class planned, and imagine different scenarios that might happen, that can actually blow your class entirely. And then you're going to build this reputation about you being the bad teacher. So again, just be prepared, and try to have fun with it. Even if you're in a traditional environment of teaching, it doesn't have to be necessarily boring. Try to get, people on the bandwagon and just go with it.
I see. Okay. Thank you for this good advice.
Yeah.
To our beginner teacher. Thank you very much. And here is the last and the most difficult question, Andy. I'm sure you are ready for it.
I hope
so. What is your motto?
My motto is do the work, and just do the work, in the sense that if you do things halfway, you'll have results. So, and if you're just going to work in a way that you're not fully into it, and I'm not talking about being a perfectionist, I'm trying to really verse yourself into something. Do it with love.
I see.
Do it with love, baby. I'm always telling people, like, do it with love. What are you gonna lose? You have to do it anyways. So instead of doing it, in a grumpy mood, just try to do it with love. So if you just have to do the work, do it with love, and don't do it halfway. Try to do it in a way that you're fully concentrated about it, and the results will come. That's my motto.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, Andy. And that's all. My questions, they're all fine. Yeah. And today, what can I say? It was really great. Thank you very much to being with us here. And also, I would like to say thank you for accepting my invitation to Teacher Talks session, Andy. And we had a really great time with you here. And you were with us. And thank you very much for your time, for your suggestions, for your ideas to give us. And also, I would like to say thank you to our listeners and audiences who joined us tonight. And before we end our sessions, would you like to add anything else?
No, actually, I wanted to thank you and all those who joined the talk, because for me, every time that I have the opportunity to share a little bit of my experience, and if I am able to help somebody out there that maybe needed to listen to those words, so it's kind of like a check in my checklist, you know. It's kind of like, cool, I helped somebody. So I just wanted to thank you for having me in, you know, for this live, and I loved it. I loved it that I was number 47.
Great, wonderful. We are so happy that you are here with us, and thank you very much. And everybody, that's all for tonight, everybody. Andy Lucchesi, she was with us tonight, and we had a really great time with her. And we will see each other again next time. I mean, next week at the same time and the same day. And until that day, take care of yourselves, and peace wherever you are. And
Bye.
good evening, good
Thank
morning,
you so
and good night. And that's all. Bye bye, Andy. See you next time. Bye. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.